Hey everybody, Jeremy here, and I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on how to enable Tableflow on Azure workloads for Confluent Cloud. We're going to start today by creating a cluster, and if you already have a Confluent Cloud cluster created, you can just skip this part, but I'm going to go pretty quick since this part is relatively simple. We're just going to create a standard cluster in Azure. And now I'm going to create a data gen connector just to give us some sample data to work with. Now, while this is being provisioned, we need to understand that in Tableflow, we're going to materialize this topic as an iceberg table in an ADLS2 container. So the first step there is we need to create an ADLS container. So let's go ahead and create a storage account. In Microsoft Azure, I will call this storage account Jeremy storage account demo. And we want to choose ADLS2, and then we want to make sure that we're choosing this big data analytics primary workload so that we have the hierarchical structure to this storage account and any container that's created. This is required for Tableflow to be compatible with this storage account and container. And it just seemed like I had the wrong resource group selected, so just make sure you're using the right permissions on your resource group, that you have the ability to create storage accounts. And we'll go ahead and click on Create. And this will take a couple minutes, so I'll pause the video and come back. Okay, the storage account has been created, so let's go to this resource, and now we need to create a container. And I'm coming from the AWS world, so this is most like what you would think of as your S3 bucket. The storage account is just a layer on top, but then the container is where you actually store your data files. So I'm going to call this container Tableflow and hit create. And now we can actually start creating our provider integration. So in Confluent Cloud, we will go to the Tableflow tab, and we will go to add a provider integration, and I will click on Microsoft Entra ID. I will call this Tableflow Demo 1, just for fun. And we'll click on Create Entra ID App. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But in step 2, you want to choose the Confluent resources that are using this integration. Of course, for this example, we want to use the Gen2 Tableflow ADLS. So we're going to copy this Entra ID app, and we're going to come here to the Azure Integrated Cloud Shell. And I'm going to type AZADSP service principal, create ID, and then paste in that Entra ID from before. And when you see this JSON spit out, that's how you know that the Entra ID has been, the service principal has been created. And we'll take special note of the display name here. I'm actually going to copy this down, because we now have to assign those roles that Confluent Cloud specified that it needs access to our subscription. So what we're going to do is navigate over to subscriptions, and I only have one subscription here. And I'm going to navigate to access control, and I'm going to add role assignment. And for here, we need 2 different roles. We need the reader role. We'll select that, hit next, and we will select user group or service principal, and we're going to select our display name that I just showed you there and hit select, review, and assign. And then we're going to do the exact same thing, but with a different role called storage blob data contributor. And I'll hit next, select members, review, and assign. And now that subscription should have the 2 required roles in order to make it compatible with Confluent Cloud Tableflow. But now we need to provide, as you can see here when I hit continue, we need to provide the tenant ID for this Azure account. So what I like to do is I navigate over to the Microsoft Entra ID, and I just copy this tenant ID to the clipboard. I'll paste it here and hit validate. So when this shows as successfully validated, you can hit continue. And now you have the provider integration right there. Now let's go back to our cluster where we will then enable Tableflow. Let's make sure we select the right cluster here. Go to the topic, and I'll hit enable Tableflow. Configure with custom storage. And I think any of these should work since I did this before, but we'll just choose a random one for the provider integration. Now we need to provide the storage account name. Let me just remind myself what I named that. That was Jeremy Storage Account Demo. And the container name is Tableflow, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. We will hit on continue and launch. And it says at the top that Tableflow was successfully enabled, but we'll wait till this shows as successful right here, and then I can show you what the data looks like in ADLS Gen2. Okay, and now you can see that the sample data stock trades is successfully syncing to my Azure ADLS 2 store. And it'll be a few minutes until we can actually see this data in our container. But rest assured that in a few minutes, we'll start to see this data. And we can actually already see something here. We can see some metadata. Of course, this is our Iceberg metadata. And if you wait about 5 to 15 minutes, depending on your throughput, you'll start to see your data here. And I plan to have a second part of this video where I'll show you how to integrate with data lakes such as Databricks or Snowflake, but you'll have to stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching, and let me know your questions.